Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are cracking open an incredible ancient text, the Maharatnakuta Sutra, to find what is basically a blueprint for spiritual acceleration. And this text, it doesn't just talk in circles about enlightenment, no. It offers a really practical, almost like a high-speed lane for anyone who's truly committed to the path. And in doing so, it answers a question that has puzzled spiritual seekers forever. So the question is this: how can someone on the path achieve supreme, perfect enlightenment fast? I mean, that's the ultimate question of spiritual efficiency, right? And what's amazing is that according to the Buddha in this sutra, the answer isn't some vague, mystical secret. It's actually a precise spiritual technology, a set of conditions that you can actively cultivate to speed up the whole journey. All right, so to really unpack all this, here's our game plan. First, we're going to define what this fast path actually is. Then we'll look at the 5 key ingredients for success, and of course, the 5 poisons that can totally sabotage your progress. We'll even see this in action with an absolutely astonishing story from the text. And finally, we'll bring it all back home to a single, powerful choice that you can make in your own practice. Okay, so what's the actual fuel for this spiritual fast lane? What makes it go? Well, the sutra gives it a specific name, Virya Paramita. And this translates to the perfection of vigor, of a kind of tireless, super focused effort. Now, it's really crucial to get this right. This is not about grinding through your practice with gritted teeth, It's not burnout. Virya Paramita is the kind of energy that comes from a deep, profound purpose. It's joyful, it's relentless, and honestly, it feels less like effort and more like an unstoppable force of nature. And here's the key. The sutra says this powerful state isn't just a matter of luck. It actually comes from 5 very specific conditions. So what are these 5 conditions? This is really the heart of the teaching. The Buddha outlines what he calls 5 advancement laws, and you can think of them as the ingredients for creating the perfect spiritual ecosystem for just rapid growth. And as you can see, this framework just flows so logically. It starts with the absolute rarest of opportunities, actually encountering a Buddha in the world, the ultimate teacher. From there, it moves to your immediate circle, drawing near to good spiritual friends who support your practice. Then it's about your own personal conditions, having a life that's stable and free from major roadblocks, which gives you the foundation for that deep work. Step 4 is all about your inner practice, making sure that your good deeds compound instead of just getting wasted. And it all culminates in learning from the best of the best. Those bodhisattvas who truly embody the path. See how each step just builds on the last? It's all about creating momentum. Now, what I love about this sutra is how incredibly balanced it is. It doesn't just show us the accelerator pedal, it also points out exactly where the brakes are. So for each of those 5 advancements we just talked about, there is a corresponding detriment law, a specific pitfall that can hinder or even completely reverse your progress. Just look at the symmetry here. It's really striking, isn't it? The path of detriment, the path that slows you down, it isn't some complex, mystical trap. It's literally the mirror opposite of the path of advancement. It's just what happens when we ignore or neglect the very conditions that help us grow. The message here is so powerful. Our spiritual journey isn't set in stone. It's the direct result of the choices we are making, day in and day out. And these aren't just, abstract ideas. The sutra gets very specific and gives concrete examples. And notice how these actions directly undermine those conditions for advancement. I mean, using your power to intimidate people for profit, that poisons your circumstances, creating huge obstacles. Or how about actively stopping your family members from hearing the Dharma? That's the exact opposite of cultivating good spiritual friends. So these actions aren't just bad in a moral sense, they actively create a life where real spiritual progress becomes nearly impossible. Okay, so to really understand what this level of diligence, this Virya Paramita, looks like when it's fully embodied, the sutra shares this absolutely breathtaking story. It's about 2 brothers, bodhisattvas, named Luigi and Zhuluji. So the story takes us way, way back, countless eons ago. And I want you to imagine these 2 brothers, born into just immense wealth and privilege. One day, they see the Buddha of their age walking through the city. And they're not just impressed, they are fundamentally shattered and completely remade by the sight. And right there, in that instant, they make a vow that will define the rest of their existence. They will become what he is, no matter what it takes. So what happens next is a practice so intense it almost sounds unbelievable. They commit to this path of extreme diligence, and they keep it up without a single break for 1,000 Years. I mean, just try to wrap your head around the sheer force of will this must have required. For a whole millennium, they never once sat down. For 1,000 years, they never lay down to sleep. They never even leaned against a wall or a tree. They ate one meal a day and just one mouthful. But listen, the external stuff, that's only half the story. The sutra makes it clear their minds were perfectly disciplined. For 1,000 years, not a single thought of lust or anger or harm. They never complained about being hungry or thirsty or tired. That is the definition of Virya Paramita. And the elder brother, Lu Yi, he summed up their mindset perfectly with this incredible vow. This really shows you that their practice wasn't just some set of rules they were following. It was an all-consuming fire. They were literally willing to let their bodies waste away, to push past every conceivable limit of pain and exhaustion, all for the sake of their one single-pointed goal. So, I mean, wow, that is an incredible, almost mythical story. So what's the takeaway for us, right here, right now? Well, the sutra brings it all back to a really fundamental choice, a choice that every single one of us on a spiritual path has to face. So here's the takeaway. Look, we don't need to go stand for 1,000 years, okay? But the underlying principle is exactly the same. The brothers, they waged an all-out war on the biggest, most obvious attachments: sleep, food, basic comfort. Our battle today, it's often with more subtle poisons, right? Things like possessiveness, jealousy, clinging to our own little comforts. But the choice is identical. At every moment, are we fueling the energy of advancement, or are we feeding the energy of detriment? So in the end, this ancient text doesn't just leave us with an amazing story, it actually turns the mirror right back on us and asks a very direct question. In our own lives, with every single action and every single thought, we are standing at this exact same crossroads. The sutra has laid out the map for both directions, crystal clear. So the question it leaves us with is a simple one. Which path will you choose to walk?